Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3888 AN. Today's date is April 21st, 2026, and the title of the episode is Powell Laundering Money? Trump just played the central bank by invoking the DPA. Hey, did you realize that the way people are thinking about retirement is changing? For years, it was simple: stocks, bonds, and hope the market does its job over time. But with everything happening in the economy today, some investors are starting to realize they may need more diversified approach. That's where assets like crypto and precious metals are starting to come into the conversation. Not as speculation, but as a way to make a thoughtful allocation as part of a long-term strategy. With a crypto IRA through My Digital Money, you can invest in both crypto and precious metals. Within a structured retirement account, your assets are secured in cold storage, so they're kept offline and protected from online threats. They're also held with a regulated U.S. custodian and supported by a U.S.-based team you can actually talk to. If you want to see how it works, go to mydigitalmoney.com or call 833-636-2008 and ask about their promotion of up to $200 based on the investment amount. Just enter X22 in promo code field to be eligible, or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they were hoping that the Iran war would increase inflation. They were hoping that fuel prices would rise way beyond Biden. And we can see at this point in time, all of this is not going to happen. Because once again, who's really in control of the economic situation? It's actually President Trump. And we could see that Trump most likely just played the central bank system by invoking the DPA. And this way, he can bring the oil prices way, way down, which is actually going to mitigate all the inflation that we've been seeing. Actually, we really haven't been seeing that much. Actually, it's been a leftover from the Biden administration. But as he brings this down and as people get the refunds, and now we have Treasury Secretary Percent saying, listen, you're going to get the same type of refund next year, so you might as well just up your withholdings. This way you get a bigger check. This is how Trump is bringing back the buying power and countering the inflation that we're seeing today. And once he gets Warsh into position, and we can see that Warsh right now, he is in front of Congress. They're asking him a lot of questions. I do believe he's going to be a driving force to bring down the rates. Now, of course, there's an investigation going on with Powell right now. And because Trump wants to make sure that he leaves, and Powell is probably going to try to stay on because, again, there's an investigation going on. And Powell now is trying to say, listen, if you stop the investigation, I'll leave. If you don't stop the investigation, I'll stay on. But I don't think it's going to work out too well for him because Trump actually made mention that Powell might be making money off of the construction of the building. So is he laundering money just like everybody else? Most likely, yes. And I do believe he's going to be caught up in all of this in the end, and it's not going to work out too well. And you can see at this point in time, Trump now has all the pieces that he needs to drive the economy home, to continually build upon what he set up. And this is going to allow us to move away from the private West Central Bank system. This is going to allow us to go back to sound money. Remember, he can't do this overnight. Plus, he needs many other pieces. We need the House and we need the Senate because, again, we have the Federal Reserve Act. You just can't remove the Federal Reserve without the help of House and the Senate. So, yes, we have a lot of other things to do, but he's making sure that everything is in place. And while he puts all these things in place, what do you think the judiciary is trying to do? What do you think the central bank, the deep state players are trying to do? They're trying to stop him every step of the way. And now we have a U.S. judge. They have blocked actions taken by the Trump administration that halted the permitting of wind and solar projects. And again, we have to remember the deep state, the central bankers, the fake news, all of it together. Their agenda is to move towards the green news scam, just like Europe is doing, just like Australia, New Zealand. And that's what they're trying to do in this country. They're trying to delay everything as best they possibly can. But in the end, it is not going to work because Trump's policies are working. He's bringing businesses back. We see U.S. steel mills. They're reopening right now. We have the U.S. Steel to reopen in tin mill at Gary Works. So tin production will return to Northwest Indiana, and with it, 225 jobs, as U.S. Steel plans to restart its tin mill at Gary Works. So basically, it looks like Nippon Steel of Japan is set to spend 15 million to 20 million to restart the Gary Tin Mill. So this is going to be absolutely incredible because once again, we could see that all these different manufacturing plants were shut down in the past, and now they're opening up again. And Trump is continually pushing more and more of the manufacturers back to this country. And yes, we're going to see a renaissance in construction, a renaissance in manufacturing jobs, a renaissance like we've never seen before. Every step of the way, what is Trump doing? He's bringing it all back. He's setting the stage for what is to come. And yes, you can't do it overnight because, again, to compete with the central bank, and we said this many, many times before, you need a system that can compete with it, and that is the tariff energy system. This is why Trump is out in Iran, one of the reasons. Because, again, he's breaking up the deep state central bank system where they had control over the energy. So he's breaking that up. He's decentralizing it. And just like he basically broke up the globalist trade system, he's doing the same thing with energy. And what's very interesting is that Trump, he was speaking to CNBC's Squawk Box, and he said he was surprised about the stock market's resilience during the U.S.-Iran war. He expected a much bigger hit, and he expected fuel prices to go way, way up. He expected oil to spike at least around $200 a barrel. And basically what he's saying right now is, look, my economic system was very, very strong. Our country is energy independent. We're basing things on real data where he's bringing back jobs, bringing back manufacturing, keeping inflation stable, everything the opposite of what the central bank system does. And what's very interesting is that when they asked him a question and someone said, U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said that fuel prices may not return to normal until 2027. Trump told The Hill that Wright is wrong, totally wrong, and that the prices will fall to normal levels as soon as the war with Iran ends in the Middle East. So basically, again, most of the people don't know what he's going to do. They don't know his strategies. And I do believe with ships now shifting where they get their oil, we're going to see oil prices start to come down because, again, the fear is going to disappear because if ships can now get their oil in Canada or the U.S. or in Venezuela, and they don't have to get it specifically in the Strait of Hormuz, what happens? The fear disappears. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Trump let everyone know that, yeah, ships, many, many ships are heading to the U.S. He put this out on Truth. He said, the Iranian leadership has forced hundreds of ships towards the United States, mostly Texas, Louisiana, and Alaska, to get their oil. Thank you very much, President DJT. So once again, he is now mitigating everything that is going on. And yes, I do believe once everything's all said and done, and again, you have to remember the deep state, the central bankers are going to fight back with everything they have. They don't want Trump to have control over this region because once they lose control, they won't be able to get it back. Now, we all know Wall Street doesn't lose money on sell-offs. You do. They create the panic, wait for you to dump your position out of fear and scoop it up at a discount. The big banks aren't selling their gold. They're buying yours. Every time the headlines scream, regular people sell, every time regular people sell, the institutions are right there, waiting with open hands. You built portfolio insurance for a reason. Don't let a red day hand it over to the people who cause it. That's why I tell people to talk to Noble Gold Investments. They will help you build a long-term plan and, more importantly, help you stick to it when the noise gets loud. The minors' up and downs, that's weather. The long-term trend, that's climate. And the climate has been favoring gold for 5,000 years. So the next time you see a dip and you feel that knot in your stomach, ask yourself one question. Am I making this decision or is Wall Street making it for me? Don't let them shake you out of the position you built to protect yourself. That's exactly what they want. And right now, all new qualified accounts receive a 10th ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Real gold in your hands, that's the whole point. Go to X22Gold.com. That is X22Gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. And they know this. And this is why they're pushing against him very, very hard. Yes, there's other reasons because, again, there's nuclear dust, which is uranium. And yes, that could be used to go after Obama. But when you look at the central bankers, you can see if they give this up, they lose control over everything. And they don't want that because, again, think about what they set up in the past. They set it up so they could have control over the price of energy. They shut down the drilling in the United States. They protected a lot of the land. They had a lot of regulation. Venezuela was off limits. Russia was sanctioned up the wazoo. And the only place you could really get the oil was the Middle East. That's where a lot of the production was. And they controlled the prices with controlling Iran, controlling fear. And this is why they did it. Now they're losing control. And Trump just did something very, very interesting. No matter what the deep state, the central bankers try to do, where they try to keep inflation up, they try to push the economy over the edge, it's not going to work. Why do I say this? Well, Unusual Whales put this out and said, Trump has signed an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act amid rising energy prices. The order directs the federal resources toward boosting production of petroleum, liquefied natural gas, coal, and power grid infrastructure. So he signed domestic petroleum production, refining, and logistic capacity, natural gas transmission, coal supply chains and baseload power generation capacity, grid infrastructure equipment and supply chain capacity, development, manufacturing, and deployment of large-scale energy and energy-related infrastructure. So the Defense Production Act, this was a 1950 law, lets the president require companies to prioritize certain contracts, provide federal loans, guarantees, purchase commitments, expedite permitting, and allocate scarce materials, all framed as national security needs. The administration is applying it across 5 specific areas via the Department of Energy. More drilling, faster refinery expansions, upgrades, and better pipeline storage to increase crude and product supply. Expand transmission pipelines, processing plant storage, and LNG export-import capacity. Support for mining, transport, and coal-fired generation to keep reliable, low-cost electricity online. More transformers, high-voltage transmission lines, and related equipment to reduce congestion and outages. Broader manufacturing and deployment support. More supply, lower prices. Energy prices are driven by supply and demand. Right now, prices are elevated due to geopolitical disruptions, reducing available supply. By using the federal funding from recent legislation and removing regulatory friction, the orders aim to boost physical supply of oil, gas, coal, electricity capacity over time, reduce infrastructure bottlenecks, signal to markets that more supply is coming, which can immediately pressure future prices downward as traders price in future abundances. And again, you're going to see prices come down because, again, what happens first? First, it's psychological. Look, we're going to fast track everything. We're going to remove the regulations. Trump says this is a national security issue. So psychologically, what's going to happen is the markets, they're going to price this into future supply and energy stocks, and they're already reacting positively to the headline. And you're going to see prices start to come down. So basically, he's using the news, removing the fear, and prices are going to start to drop. And yes, since you don't have all these regulations, since you don't need all these permits, since you don't need all these things, you can build these things very, very quickly. Is it going to be built tomorrow? No. But in a couple months, you're going to see a lot of these things come online. Plus, with other countries purchasing oil from the United States, the fear is gone. And I do believe the oil prices are going to snap back to where they were. And as time goes on, you're going to start to see them start to get lower and lower and lower. And this is going to be a major problem for the Federal Reserve because remember, the Federal Reserve, they've been waiting for inflation. It's going to happen any minute. But again, inflation is a devaluation of the currency. When energy moves up and down, is it really inflation or is it just the cost of energy? You see, when you really look at it, the central bank has caused the majority of the inflation with the devaluation of the currency. Yes, there's other things that can cause prices to go up or down. But again, when you look at the inflation caused by the central bank, what do you see? You see that it just doesn't go down when you want it to. It continually moves up because there's always creation of currency. There's always borrowing because that's the way the country works. And it basically devalues the currency. And if you have oil prices that fluctuate, well, you can actually bring prices up high. You can bring prices down low very, very easily. And Trump is about to do this. Remember, he can mitigate the inflation that was already caused by the central bank. Can he get rid of all the inflation and bring us back to 1972 prices? No, or 1971 prices. No, he cannot. That's when we came up with the gold standard. No, he cannot. The only way he could do that is pay off the debt. But can he mitigate it? Yes. How is he doing this? Well, he can take the gas prices and bring them down very, very low. That puts more money in the people's pocket, and it affects the delivery of products, the production of products, and everything else. So yes, you can mitigate that inflation. What else can you do? You can actually cut out a lot of taxes. That puts more money in people's pockets. You can tell people, look, you're going to get the same deduction. Use our analyzer to see what you're going to have to pay and then adjust your paycheck. Give yourself a little bit more every single month because there's no reason to have high withholdings. It makes no sense. So you're going to get a bigger check. He can lower the interest rates and actually remove the burden of the people with credit cards, with loans, and other things. He can help businesses this way. So yes, can he mitigate all this? Absolutely. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. And throw on top of all this, deporting the illegals that take up the rentals, the illegals that are in homes, the illegals that are taking the jobs, because you have to remember when the government subsidizes all of this, or the state subsidizes all of this, it pushes prices up. So can Trump mitigate all of this? Absolutely. Can he bring us all the way back to 1971 prices? Well, the only way to do that is to pay off the debt. But again, at this point in time, we're not there yet, because once again, as we approach the midterms, Trump wants the economy humming. You see, the second part of this is when we remove the Federal Reserve. And the only way to remove the Federal Reserve is to have those in the House and those in the Senate on his side so they can create laws or remove laws that have been put into place a long time ago. And I do believe that is what he needs in the end. So everything that he's doing, he is now pushing this forward. And what's very interesting is that Trump is letting all the companies know that he's watching who's taking the refund and who isn't taking the refund from the towns. Because you have to remember, just a couple days ago, we mentioned that Trump now, the United States government, has to start refunding all the companies because of what the Supreme Court ruled. Well, Tony Saruga put this out and said, how many companies realize it's a trap? POTUS on companies not requesting tariff refunds. I think it's brilliant if they don't do that. If they don't do that, I'll remember them. I will tell you that because I'm looking to make this country strong. So he's letting all the companies know, listen, you want the refund? Fine. Take the refund, but I'll remember. And I'll remember throughout the presidency. And remember, he's taking everything now, right now, and he's reversing everything the central bank has done. So let's see which companies take the refund and which companies say, you know something, we're doing fine right now. It's not that big of a deal. This is going to be very, very interesting. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that Trump, he was being interviewed and he said something about Jerome Powell. Now, we know that there's an investigation going on into the Fed renovation of their building, and they're spending a lot of money, billions of dollars, and Trump is saying, where's all this money going? It doesn't make any sense. Why is it taking so long? And Trump let everyone know that it might be possible that Jerome Powell is making money off of the Fed renovation. Now, I do believe Trump probably already knows this. Trump already knows exactly what's going on. And I think this is why he ordered the investigation going back a little bit in time, because he knew that there was no way that the building should cost this much money. The money was being laundered to other places, just like everything else that we see throughout the country. You think the Fed is not doing it? They're the problem. They're the ones who are causing all this. So you don't think they're involved in money laundering? Oh, once we get to look into the books of the Federal Reserve and we see what they're actually doing, I think people are going to be shocked. People are going to say, wait a minute, what have you been doing here? You've been sending money all across the globe and we're paying for this? I think people are going to look at this and say, okay, we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. And I think Trump is going to use this against them. But again, how do you bring the people into the fold to convince people that the Fed can't manage the United States and it's a criminal outfit? Well, if you start with the renovations and you show that the Fed has been laundering money and they can't even manage their own renovation, how in the world are they doing this for the country? Does it make any sense? And if they're just doing this, what else are they doing? Are there other crimes that they are committing? Maybe we need to do a forensic audit. Now, again, Congress has tried to do an audit, but again, those people that have been installed into Congress, they've always blocked it. I think Ron Paul has been trying to push this for a very long time when he was in Congress. And what happens when we get the House, when we get the Senate, we see the investigation into the Federal Reserve, and there's a call to do an audit into the Federal Reserve, and we find out that there's criminal activity. Well, will this make it a lot easier for Trump and the Patriots to say it's time to restructure the Fed? It's time to bring it into the Treasury? I do believe Trump is building this narrative right now. However it plays out, he's building the narrative to restructure the Federal Reserve. And this is why he's building the parallel economic system, because you need something to compete with the Federal Reserve. The way we fund everything is through borrowing. The way Trump is going to fund everything is through external funds. We're not creating currency. We're not causing inflation. We're not taking it from the people and their hard labor. We're taking it from the outside, just like every other business when they sell their product. Well, he's selling the United States. He's selling the consumers. The people are going to consume your products. So if you want to sell your products in this country, well, there's a fee for that. And yes, that will fund the government. That will fund everything that we are funding today. And this is what Trump is now putting into place. In the end, the Federal Reserve, and I think the central banks across the globe, they will cease to exist the way we know it today. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.